So you're thinking about starting a side hustle. As a nurse, you're probably thinking, what kind of other options are there? There's not that many things. Wrong, because there's so many different opportunities. And if you're thinking that you should start a side hustle, whether or not you should do it or not, yes, you should do it. But two is there are so many different options out there. And in this video, I'm going to be going over my top 5 side hustles where you can start it today and potentially be making up to $1,000 or more and potentially replace your main income and expand from there. So stay tuned. Welcome back to the channel, Life of a Psych NP. If you're new to this channel, let me formally introduce myself. I'm Darty. I'm a board-certified psychiatric nurse practitioner, and in this channel, I go over several different subjects to educate the public about mental health, ways to improve your lifestyle, topics related to nursing, nurse practitioners, and specifically psychiatric nurse practitioners like myself. So if you are interested in any of these topics, feel free to subscribe. Make sure you like this video because it helps me out so much with the YouTube algorithm, and follow me on Instagram at LifeofaPsychNP. So you probably clicked this video because you probably came from my previous video about why you should start your side hustle today. And if you didn't, make sure you watch my previous video. I'm going to link it down below and somewhere up here or here. I'm going to make sure I do that. But you probably clicked this video because you're trying to figure out what side hustle you can start today that could potentially make you upwards of $1,000 or more and could potentially replace your full-time income. And that's why I wanted to shed light on this topic, because there's so many different opportunities out there, but I'm just going to focus in on 5 that I truly believe gives you the best potential to make that $1,000 or more and potentially could replace your full-time income. And it's just not my experience, but experience from other nurses around the world that I've talked to, whether they're in different countries or even in the United States. So many different people that I've talked to, and it potentially leads up to them either leaving the nursing field or going down from full-time to part-time or per diem or whatever the case is. But yes, it's not just me. A lot of people are doing it. So make sure you stay until the end of the video because the 5th one is pretty good, especially if you're a nurse. So let's go. So the very first side hustle that you should start today that can potentially make you upwards of $1,000+ and potentially replace your full-time income is social media. Social media is crazy nowadays. I'm not just saying, oh, you should do those TikTok dances, just post cringy things on Instagram, which a lot of people do, but it is an opportunity for us to grow, whether you're going to be Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, make a podcast, or whatever it is. The social media space is booming. The reason being is because a lot of these companies that used to spend their money on commercials or ads or so many different things, they're putting their money into social media influencers and paying these people so much money, whether they're promoting a product or whether they're having an ad throughout their video or whether they're paying them to do a sponsored post. There's so many different things that you can do in the social media space where it could potentially make you so much money. And talking to my buddy of mine that is a psychiatric nurse practitioner that's in the influencer space, he actually left his job as a full-time Psych NP and is now maybe seeing patients 1 day a week and working and just being full-time influencer, and he's making upwards of $1,000 to $10,000 per post that he does if it's a sponsored post. Imagine making $10,000 by just making one post every single week. That's crazy, right? And I think that this is an important thing to do because people don't understand how powerful social media and how powerful certain companies are and how much they're willing to pay for you, especially if they want to get exposure, because now they could have been spending like $10,000 to $20,000, $30,000 on just one commercial, but now they're just going to spend $5,000, $10,000 on a social media influencer to do the exact same thing where they're gonna have the exact same amount of eyes on that specific product or post or whatever that thing is, and they're still gonna be saving money on the marketing side end, and you're gonna be making money. And it's just crazy. I can go on a whole video about this topic, but yeah, social media is where it's at. So the second side hustle where you could potentially make $1,000 or more a month and upwards of so much money to replace your income is selling your nursing notes, whether it's nursing school notes or nurse practitioner school notes. You can start up Etsy, or you can do PayHip, or you can do, speaking of Etsy or PayHip, definitely link is down below for my e-binder, so definitely check it out, and there's a special discount code for my YouTubers. But for real, this is crazy because you already did your notes. All you need to do is look at your notes, see which are the more important pieces, being able to put it into a creative space, and being able to document and get certain references, and making sure you reference and you get multiple pieces, maybe even add on to whatever your notes are, and make it look good and creative. And all you have to do is sell it. There's all these e-products nowadays where you can make so much money. Think about all the different products out there that you've bought. Imagine you buying an ebook because you want to learn about something else, but imagine having all of your notes being put into one PDF and you being able to sell it to someone. Imagine having that when you were in nursing school or nurse practitioner school, where you have all of these things instead of you writing it that you could have just bought for $50 or $100, and you'll have accessibility to so much material that you can study because you know this is what you're gonna do. So that's where a lot of people are starting to transition, is taking their notes, putting it something that's digestible and it looks great and that you can print out for them, and selling it. All you have to do is just put in the work up front by being able to make all of these things creative and writing it down and putting it into this PDF, and that's all you have to do. You don't have to sell a physical product, you don't have to do anything. And that's the amazingness of how our economy is now, with so many things all online. You can start this today and you can make upwards of so much money. Talking to some of my friends that made and created ebooks, they've made $10,000 to $4,000 or even $10,000 a month depending on the product itself. And if you imagine now you're scaling it to multiple products, imagine how much you can make there. So yeah, this is very lucrative, and I know so many nurses that went down from full-time to part-time, or even just picking up shifts like PRN or per diem and just selling a lot of their notes because they're making so much, and now they have free time for their family or free time for other business ventures or whatever the case is. But yeah, it's crazy. So definitely think about that. So the third side hustle that you can start today and make upwards of $1,000 or more, and it could potentially replace your main income, is being a health and wellness coach. Obviously, this isn't my thing, where I'm not sure how states and certain states view health and wellness coach versus you being a nurse practitioner or you being a provider or you being an RN, but definitely look it up based on your state. But I know many health and wellness coaches out there where they don't need any special certifications or any other certain things out there in order for them to be able to provide that service. And from these health and wellness coaches that I've spoken to, especially in the social media space, they are doing really well, because a lot of people want to go into situations getting advice or getting certain knowledge from professionals. And as nurses, we're professionals. So they'd rather believe someone that's been in the field as opposed to someone that has no credentials behind that. And now once you start to build up a community and start to build up a person from person to person, and being able to put them into a situation where they're getting paid monthly, or they're paying for a monthly membership. Let's just say, for example, you're going to be able to provide a health and wellness coach for someone that's going to be on a program of yours that you develop based off of nutrition, based off of exercising, and based off of just lifestyle changes that you're going to implement, and just be able to be there for them to provide that support. Yes, you're not giving medical advice completely, but you're tailoring certain things that we learn as professionals, nursing professionals, in order to better their life. And imagine now that you start this program, you have someone that is paying $100 a month. So you have one person. So yes, you're making $100 a month and probably putting a lot of the work up front, but now imagine that you've developed a system where it's pretty much cut and paste certain things that's going to be based off of their lifestyle. A lot of the major concepts will remain the same, but all the other things, like the little nuances that you want to add in, it's pretty easily adjustable based off of their life. Now, you're putting up the work up front, you're going to put a lot of the things up front, but like I said, you're going to cut and paste certain things that are pertinent and adding on certain things based off of the person. So now you're at one person a month, $100. Now you build it up to 2 people, 3 people, 4 people, 5 people, 6 people, 7 people, 8 people, 9, 10, plus to 20, maybe even 100 people. And yes, you're getting on all of these calls, and yes, you're going to be able to talk to them and just offer that support. But maybe it's a certain point where you're at 100 people. Let's just say the easy example, 10 people. That's $1,000 every single month that you're just checking in on certain people. You're having maybe a 10 to 15 minute phone call with them or Zoom call with them every week or every other week, or in the beginning every once a month, or beginning once every week, and then now towards when they're starting to build that lifestyle, they're just at once a month. Now you're $1,000, and then now you ramp up to 20 people, so it's 2,000, 30 people, it's 3,000, and think about all of the opportunities there where you do a lot of the work up front, and now it's just those 10, 15 minute phone calls throughout the week that are pretty easy, and you can do it in between work or whatever the case is. Then you can build up that side hustle, and imagine getting up to that 100 people, and now you're at $10,000 a month, and it's just blowing up from there. So you never know, and there's endless opportunities. It doesn't necessarily have to be that model. Maybe you want to sell a program for, okay, a 2-month program for $500, and they'll be able to have that. You can do that. You have that flexibility, and ultimately it's going to come down to you. Yes, in the beginning might be a lot more work, and you might not be making as much money based off of that, but there's going to be that snowball effect, and you're going to see crazy changes. Trust me. The 4th side hustle that could make you $1,000 or more and potentially replace your full-time income is tutoring nursing students or nurse practitioner students in order for them to pass boards, whether it's the NCLEX, ANCC, or other board certification exams. But this is a big one. The reason being is because we've already taken it. We've taken the NCLEX, I've taken the NCLEX, and I've taken ANCC boards. So people can do this, and I think tutoring is a great opportunity because we already know what material's there. We've studied it, we've taken the test, so why not be able to take what we know into being able to tutor somebody else? So this is a great side hustle because it can start off as doing it 1 or 2 people a week or 1 or 2 people in the beginning, and just getting the flow of things. Yes, it's going to be more difficult because you have to study up and understand certain materials like immensely before you can be able to regurgitate it out to the student. But once you get into the flow of things, now you're thinking about, okay, let me do this, let me tutor people, and I can just do it every once a week and go on Zoom, get up to 5 to 10 students, and just go over how you study for the exam. So now imagine it goes from 5 to 10, and then 10 to 15, 15 to 20, and you're charging people for every single session $50. Something easy, $50, an hour session. But now think about that, $50 times 10, $500, or even times 100 people. Yeah, you see where the money is. And imagine now just being able to do that. And what happens if you just hit record on that button on the Zoom video? Now you're recording all of your sessions, and now you're translating that into doing a course. And now instead of that 50 to 100 people that you have to interact with every single weekend, now you can just tell people, hey, just pay for a discounted amount instead of having the real me, but you can watch a version of me doing it, and now that's just passive. So many opportunities here, and I think this is something that has endless amounts of opportunity and something that could be potentially very, very lucrative where it can replace. So my fifth and final side hustle that you could make $1,000 or more and potentially make enough to replace your full-time income is being a telehealth nurse. So unfortunately there aren't as many jobs out there, but they're out there, and a lot of these companies are starting to pop up. More and more of these companies, especially these telehealth companies, are starting to pop up where they're using RNs to be able, or even LVNs or LPTs, to be able to do the initial screener. So when people go into certain companies, especially let's just say for example my outpatient clinic. So my outpatient clinic, patients will do an intake form and they'll be able to answer all of the questions, and before I divvy it up based off of the provider they want, or based off of if I want to be able to give it to another provider, I'm going to look at it and make sure it's appropriate. A lot of the times I look at the paperwork and it doesn't necessarily tell a full story. And a lot of these patients that might not be adequate for our practice based off of their acuity, severity, or whatever we're not able to handle, it just falls through the cracks, and now it just, I'm not going to say it looks bad, but it's just a little bit more difficult on my providers because I want their lives to be happy. I want them to enjoy the patients that they see, and sometimes this may be more cumbersome than normal depending on the patient. So let's just say a lot of these patients start to fall through the cracks. They see them and like, oh, whoa, they're way more severe, and I don't want that liability on there because at the end of the day, I don't want them to feel like they're liable for a lot of the things. So that's where we want to be able to avoid, or be able to look at these patients and make sure they go into their correct path, or give them resources to get the help that they need, or maybe they need to even be hospitalized because of the severity. So this is where telehealth nurses come into play, because instead of doing the whole paperwork and making the patient do the whole paperwork, they're allocating these nurses time to be able to see these patients, or not see, but to be able to either have a phone call or a Zoom session with them, and they do the intake. And from there, yes, some insurances will reimburse the nurses, but sometimes they don't. But they'll be able to look at that and go through all of the whole questionnaire and be like, okay, this patient is appropriate, so they'll be able to give it off. But if they feel like, okay, I don't think it's appropriate, you need higher level of care, whether it's to a different acuity setting in the outpatient setting, or if they need to go inpatient, they'll be able to do that. So now, instead of wasting the provider's time and being able to see the patient and they don't feel like they're comfortable doing it and making them happy, they're having the nurse do it and be able to provide resources. So not only is it going to help the provider, but it's going to help the patient be able to get services that they actually need a lot sooner rather than later, because of this telehealth nurse being able to do those intakes or being able to screen them properly. And that's why a lot of these places, the outpatient places, are popping up more and more, because the opportunities out there. And in order for them to be in a situation where they're able to see patients appropriately, especially if they're purely a telehealth or psych company, that's why they hire these nurses, and that's why more and more of these opportunities are going to pop up. And I think this is a great side hustle, because you get to probably pick and choose when you want to see the patient. So if it's after work, you're getting off of your shift for an 8-hour shift from 7 to 3:30. After 4, you can call them. After hours 5, 6, 7, 8. A lot of these places are flexible because it's going to be a quick 15 to 30 minute phone call or Zoom session, as opposed to that hour-long initial with the provider. And not only is the assessment going to help the patient, but it's also, depending on how structured or well the nurse does the intake, they can translate that information for the nurse practitioner, so they don't necessarily have to spend as much time, even though you should, but they can get a lot of the information up front, so they can do their intake a lot faster and maybe even see more patients because their intake's a lot shorter. So instead of having a 60 to 90 minute intake, now it's 30 to 60 minutes, and you can see more patients throughout the day. And if you're getting paid per patient or percentage, then you're going to be getting paid more. So win-win at the end of the day. And I think this is a side hustle for you. Well guys, this is the end of the video, and I appreciate if you stayed this far, and if you have, make sure you like this video, subscribe, and make sure you follow me on Instagram. But I appreciate all of you, and from the bottom of my heart, I wouldn't be here without all of you guys and without any of you guys, because let's face it, this community that we built is something special, and that's why I'm starting to put more emphasis on making more and more videos for you guys, and ultimately hoping to help. Even if I help one person today, one person tomorrow, I'm gonna be happy, because, and this will be worth it overall, because at the end of the day, the more opportunities I can provide you, the more knowledge I can provide you, it's gonna help set you up in a situation where it's gonna better not only yourself, but your future and your loved ones, and growing from there. And if you have any questions about other side hustles, I can make a part 2. If you want me to make a part 2, leave a comment down below. I can make a part 2. There's so many different things I can talk about. I probably should just, because of how long these videos are, I probably should just make a podcast. If you want me to make a podcast, comment down below. I definitely have no issues with that. I am looking at buying equipment, so let me know. Well guys, have a wonderful day and stay safe, and until next time, bye.